What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to the bench for a final episode here on our AJ-1 Savage. Today, we're going to finish off this model kit and get it wrapped up. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Let's start having some fun. Now, last time we overcoated everything with a gloss coat, so that is ready to go ahead and decal the surface, but we're going to have to go ahead and check that out a little bit more because I'm not entirely certain how the decals are going to work. But the surface is relatively smooth and it's very shiny, glossy, so the decals should just drop right down into place. At least that's my hope. One thing I will say about Roden decals is that I've had some that work beautifully. I've had others that just don't work out. These here, I don't know how they're going to work because I haven't used any yet, but I'm going to go ahead and be cautiously optimistic about these and hopefully they work just fine. I have noticed though that a couple of decals are a little bit off in measurement. For example, these black lines that go around the different areas there on the wing surfaces, they look a little bit too wide. I've been looking at my references and they are barely noticeable in my references, so I don't think they're this thick. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to repaint them, and that's going to be a long process. But I think if we can go ahead and do that, it's going to add a little bit of extra character to the model, and I think it's going to look a little bit better. So that is the plan. Now, of course, consulting my references, I have noticed that there are a lot of stencils on these early -1 Savages. They kind of start tapering off as the production continues. These really early sliding canopy versions of the Savage, they have a lot of white stencils and we just don't have that many here in the kit. So what I'm going to have to do is go back into my spares box and dig through and try to find some extra decal sets that I just don't need. And I can maybe use a couple of those white lettering to add in a little bit of interest. So that's going to be something to consider. So starting off here, we're going to go ahead and grab some Tamiya tape. We're going to cut a strip of tape about 1 millimeter wide. That's going to act as our template, and that's going to be useful for going ahead and mapping out the different panel lines so we can go ahead and block out those areas, and then we can come back later and paint them. We're also going to use the decal as a visual guide to figure out how far to extend and how deep to extend onto that wing. So we'll see how it goes. And then we'll come on back and I'll show you guys what we come up with. Alright everybody, we are back, and masking took a long time, about 4 hours guys, to mask everything and then paint it. Really honestly, most of it was spent masking. It took like 10 minutes to paint, so not a big deal, but that's typically how it goes with these larger masking projects. And something as simple as a black demarcation line, you wouldn't think would be all that difficult to do, but it was challenging. It took some time. I think it's much better looking though having painted them on. So I'm happy I went that direction, but oh boy, did it take a while to do. But anyway, now we're gonna move on to our decals. We've got everything gloss coated and it's dry and cured, so we're ready to go ahead and start applying our decals. And that's gonna be a lengthy process as well. I've also noticed that we are lacking a lot of stencils, and a lot of the early -1 Savages that I have pictures of are literally covered in stencils. So we have some of those. The kit decals do give you the side fuselage stencils, but not a whole lot on the upper surface of the wing. So like I mentioned before, we're going to go back into our spares box and we're going to find us some stencils that we can use. Luckily, it's 1/72 scale, so you're not really going to be able to read the fine print, so I'm not too worried about what it says, but I think I've got a couple of ideas. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to pull out as many white stencils as possible. We're going to make sure they're in scale. We're going to try to put them down, artistically speaking, a bit more similar to what we have in the pictures, and we're just going to go with it. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but we're going to try it. We're going to see what we can do. So let's jump on into that time lapse. Let's put down all our decals, and then we'll come on back and I'll show you guys what we come up with. Let's keep it rolling. We're almost done. All right, everybody, we are back and we have finally finished off all the decaling here for our AJ Savage. I think it looks pretty cool, but it took a lot of work to get it to that point. Not only did some of the Roden decals end up silvering on me, I lost a few in the water. They just completely disintegrated, so I had to go ahead and replace a couple with some spares that I found in different model kits. I pulled so many stencils out of Hellcats, Panthers, F-104s. I pulled out some old Corsair decals I had from 12 Sprues. I pulled anything and everything I could possibly find that fit the description of what I had in my references, and I used them. But now we're going to go ahead and roll back in here to another time lapse, and we're going to start finishing off the kit by adding in all the fidgety parts, like the exhaust stubs, some of the wheel bay doors. We're going to add in the pitot tube, any antennas that we could find. We're going to get everything glued into place, and we're going to paint up the last little bit of detailing here and there. We're going to go ahead and overcoat this with a nice semi-flat coat, and we're going to call it quits. So first off, we're going to go ahead and clean up the exhaust stubs. We're going to add in a couple of antennas, and I need to go ahead and paint those because right now they're just basic white styrene or they're gray styrene, so those have to be added in and touched up. And then eventually the final assembly of all the different parts, get everything glued into place, hit it with a nice semi-flat coat, and we'll be back and I'll show you guys the finished product for our AJ Savage. All right, we're almost there, guys. Let's keep it rolling. Let's finish her up. All right, everybody, we are back, and after 8 weeks here on the bench, we are finally finished with our AJ Savage, and this was an adventure to be sure. Not the best kit I've ever built, but the best kit I've ever built from Roden, so if that means anything to you, take it for what you will. Let's go ahead and pull out the kit, though, and show you the finished product. Here it is, 1/72nd scale Roden AJ-1 Savage, one of the early Savages before the canopy retrofit. It's not an easy kit to build though. As you can see, I've got a couple of issues here and there. It's not perfect, but you know what? It was a fun adventure and I'm glad I went ahead and took a plunge on this particular kit. Not the best model I've ever built, but also not the worst. One thing I will say though, the undersurface of the wings was not represented in the instructions, so I have no idea if this is the correct way to decal it. I just mirrored the top section of the wing, but overall, I think it looks pretty cool. We've got our side crew door open, we've got the boarding ladder extended. We did lose this decal here for the prop warning. We had to replace those, and we added in a ton of other stencils. Doesn't look like much, but trust me, it took a long time to source these and to place them individually there onto the kit. I think it looks pretty cool though, so I'm absolutely happy with the end result. So with that being said, let's go ahead and zoom in for you and get you a little bit of a close-up. And as you can see, it's not half bad. You know, for what it is and for my skill level, it is not half bad. I added in, like I said, a ton of extra stencils, as you can see. Even though it doesn't look like much, it's a lot more than what we had in the kit. I also added in these white stripes right here, which is very prominent on most of my references. Also, the props here on the Savage, these were multi-part propellers, and I absolutely hate working on multi-part propellers. Never work right, they never can line up, and these were particularly difficult to go ahead and line them up, and I still didn't get them quite right. So yeah, not a big fan of those. But even with those, I say give it a shot if you like Cold War aircraft. Just make sure to get yourself a nice reference book. But that is it, guys. We are done with our Savage. 8 weeks into the build, and we have what appears to be a pretty decent looking early -1 Savage. Not 100% perfect, mind you, not the best kit I've ever built. It went together decently well, a ton of really nice detail there in the cockpit. Some of the parts are a little finicky, and some of the areas such as the wheelbase could use a bit of improvement. And of course, that canopy, if you can get an aftermarket version or if they come out with a -2, that would actually help to kind of widen the production line a little bit more. I still say highly recommend it, a great model kit. Takes a bit more time though, so be careful with it. Test fit all your parts, and you should be able to build a nice looking AJ-1 Savage, in this case the early version, here from the Roden kit. But that is it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Until our next episode, you guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. I'm not sure what I'm going to go ahead and build next. I might take a week off just to kind of think about it, but we'll be back soon enough, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of Military Mondays for a brand new build and a new modeling adventure. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.